Hi, I'm Mark Edwards, and welcome to Musical Differences, a podcast, a conversation, a chat between friends who will discuss their musical interests, their musical obsessions, and their musical differences too. My guest in this episode is Colin Craven, known as Colin to friends, Ronnie to others, and indeed Ronnie the Cod to others still. Enjoy. Yeah, can I hear you?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you and I can see you,
Right,
which
hang
is...
First thing I got to do is take the brightness right down so you don't get the reflection in my glasses.
oh, no, that's very good. How do you do that?
Sorry?
How are you doing that?
I just turn the brightness on the screen down,
All right, okay, I got you.
and I can still see you,
no, brilliant.
but it takes the glare out.
It does. How do you do that? Where's the brightness on your... or is it
On my
just...
laptop.
All right, it's just on one of the function buttons, probably,
So
is it?
yeah, it's
F8?
F2 and F3 with me. I got an HP laptop.
Right. No, amazing. Well, no, like, my God. Well, I can tell you what you can do.
Yeah.
We got a lot of headroom above you. You could just tilt a little. Oh, maybe not that much. That's just super. You want some headroom, but not too much.
Yeah.
You happy with that? You're looking good there. You're looking good there, Ronnie. You're looking good. I have to say there are moments. There are moments when it is definitely Ronnie Corbett. There was potentially, I don't know whether there was an opportunity for you to make a few bob as a Ronnie Corbett looky-likey at one point, but there we go. How are you today?
They're actually touching the floor.
No, well, are you? Are you of a similar stature as well to Ronnie Corbett? Is it right?
He's 5 foot or 5'2", and I'm 5'5". So I'm only about 3 inches.
You're a giant. You're a giant in comparison. Well, look, thanks ever so much for joining us.
No problem. I've enjoyed the ones you've done previously.
Brilliant. No, that's really nice to know, actually, because what started, I don't know if you know, and I'm doing a business podcast as well, and I started the series on that, and I thought I need to kind of make sure that my kind of interviewing skills in many respects, because I've been a salesman and a trainer, and you could say a keynote speaker for a long time. So most of what I do is I do all the talking. I mean, I still do a lot of talking on here.
Who are you with?
I work for myself. I have done first of all, most of my clients are big tech firms, so the likes of Microsoft, and I haven't done anything with HP, but AWS, that's Amazon, Vodafone.
What about Computer Centre?
I used to work at Computer Centre, and I have done work for Computer Centre as well. What's the connection there with you?
Mark Keneally.
I know the name.
He's head of sales for UK, and then he went to Europe. He was head of sales.
He's in Germany with them or something, was he? Right. Okay.
He was.
Well, yeah. I know the name. I got a daughter who works there now, actually. And
right. I used to play cricket with him for Velindre.
Is he based down there with you?
No, he's retired. He retired.
Right.
I think it's Henley-on-Thames. He lives, something like that.
That would make sense. It's a very nice part of the world. As I said, if he's worked in Computer Centre for 20 or 30 years, I'm sure he'll have done very well for himself. Oddly enough, I went to, say it's a small world, and I went to see, so on the first episode we did with a guy called Ed Kenny. Ed Kenny's an Irish guy, and Ed is ex-Computer Centre, and Ed got in touch. He was due to go and see Stiff Little Fingers in London, but he couldn't go, so he had a spare ticket, so I went, and the two guys that I went with were both ex-CC, and they would have been in Mark Keneally's cohort. One ended up leaving there and going to a company called Softcat. Well, they both ended up leaving there and going to Soft, but they're very much of that kind of era. So small world, and of course our connection is the Stargate. The Stargate being Andrew Demery. So you'll have caught up on the because I think Andrew put you in touch with me after probably after his
After
podcast,
his, yeah.
actually, after his one. So I don't know if we went back and looked at the say he comes up on the Chris Tanner one, and he comes up on the
Oh,
Andrew
yeah, yeah.
Nutt one, and clearly he's coming up again here tonight. But I'm going to try on some lyrics. I like to try and
Oh,
start on some lyrics, and I'm going to
lyrics is
just
not my
see if
strong point.
these. Well, I was going to make it easy and go with bananas, but we've kind of
Oh,
done
there we
that
are
one
then.
online already, so I'll forget that one. I'm guessing you might know this. So, I got no means to show identification. I got no papers show you what I am. You'll have to take me just the way I am that you find me. What's gone is gone. I do not give a damn. Do you get it?
I know the lyrics, but
I picked it. You're going to hum it there. It's Peter Gabriel, and I'm
yeah,
assuming I don't know whether Peter
yes.
Gabriel is one of your kind of real favourites. I'm kind of assuming that just from some of the stuff
Oh,
I've seen you
yes.
do online.
Um, I've seen every tour Gabriel did until last year when I was supposed to go and I had the heart attack the week before.
Oh dear, I didn't know that.
I've seen him 32 times.
Right. Have you seen anybody more than 32 times?
Yes.
Really?
Genesis. Yeah. 51.
Right. How many times with Gabriel?
Once with the Lamb tour, and then they did the Six of the Best reunion for his charity when he lost all the money with WOMAD. So that was
Right.
82. And yeah.
Well, again, online, we were kind of assuming or sussing each other out with regards to things we may have been at. And it looked like we've probably been at one of those Mickey Jones memorial concerts in Morriston. But
Morriston.
I'm assuming another one here. Then the chances are high, if you've been to that many Genesis concerts in 1980. I think it was 80, not 81. Again, my brother, literally out of the blue, his girlfriend was due to go to see Genesis in Sophia Gardens and had decided not to go, and there's a spare ticket going. I went with Philip Harris for the Duke tour. Were you there?
I was there, yeah.
I thought you
And
might be.
of the 51 times I've seen him, that was the worst.
Oh, well, really?
Yeah, it's the
And
venue. It's
right.
the venue was appalling. And
It's a pretty poor album as well, though, isn't it? I mean, it was
well,
Genesis, but it wasn't Genesis to me.
I like Duke's Travel and Duke's End. The
Right.
instrument. That's and what's the other one? Actually, my wife, she's come to see them how many times? Twice, 3 times with me, and she and your Duchess, and to play the Duke album when we were going up to Liverpool to see them 3 years ago, or 3 years ago, and that was one of the best tracks she's ever heard from them. She plays
Right.
that quite often.
I mean,
So
saying that now, because if it was an album from 1980, it's a 40-year-old album. I would have said most albums were recorded
oh
40
yeah,
years ago were good, but it wasn't. It was a departure, was it not? For Genesis at the time, wasn't it? I mean, what was before that? Before that, it wouldn't have Wind and
and
Wuthering,
then there were
maybe, was
three,
it?
and
Right,
then there
and
were
then there were
three.
three again. Then they were beginning to. They had their eyes on the charts, I think, at that point. That's how it
Oh,
felt, didn't they?
oh yeah. Once Hackett left, it was. I think they coped without Gabriel when they did Trick of the Tail, but
Yeah.
when Hackett left, it went slowly.
Right,
I
right. I
followed it
got you.
all different. Even when Collins left and they did Colin all stations. I saw them twice in Cardiff, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was because they had Anthony Drennan, who was the Cause guitarist, and they had a drummer called Nia Zidkiar, who was from New York. He was a great drummer,
I'm
but
sure.
it wasn't commercial enough because Collins wasn't on it, and they had to cancel the American tour. So
So did you go to see him? Because it's tragic, really. The what's happened to him physically, isn't it? Because it's like drop foot he's got or something, isn't it? Which for a drummer must be.
well,
If
yes,
anyone who's got problems walking, it's devastating. And then to look back in his peak when he was it during I know what I like, didn't he used to do some tambourine dance or something, you know what I
yeah,
mean, when
yeah,
he's kicking the tambourine,
yeah,
he had
yeah.
such a physical presence when he was younger, and such a brilliant drummer, and to be honest, you say a brilliant singer as well. I never paid much attention to Steve Hackett as a guitarist. I never really thought that wasn't a big Genesis, but Genesis weren't heavy enough for me.
Yeah,
But I have to say that link that you put up the other night of that Steve Hackett concert, I don't know, in Iceland with an
yeah,
orchestra or
yeah,
whatever. Who is that singer? He's breathtaking.
yeah, yeah. Well, I forget the name of the band, but they're a big Icelandic band, and they said they did the thing with John Anderson as well. So I assume they were just invited along as guests to
Right, got
sing
you.
with them. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
the singer was
yeah.
incredible, and I suppose a contrast as well. And I know that was recorded maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little less than
Yeah,
that. But
so
Steve
quicker.
Hackett looked in such good physical shape.
Mm.
So yeah, it's. But you did go and see Genesis with Phil Collins when he was seated performing.
Yeah,
How was it?
it was heartbreaking, but it had to be done on my behalf because I followed them since 73. And well, I've been lucky enough. I worked for them as a stagehand in Europe in 81 on the ABBA
Right,
Cup. And I met the band, I met, all the crew. Uh, his tour manager is from Cardiff, I know Pudding, Steve
right.
Jones. And I think I got a bit of pain in the butt in the end because they used to turn up, do us a favour, can you get me in? And and I think when I went to see Collins on a solo tour, I think it was Dusseldorf in 85, and I
Right.
got in and I turned up. Oh, fuck, not you again.
I was going to say, out of the 52 times, you weren't trying to get freebies on every one of those occasions. You
No,
probably
no,
paid.
no.
But I think the Genesis ticket for Sapphire Gardens, if I remember rightly, was £4 or £4.50, I think, something like that.
Might even have been £3.
Was it?
There's a story behind that. I worked in Velindre, and Andrew Nutt, as it turns out, did
Yes,
his apprenticeship with my brother, and his father worked in Velindre, so we got a connection there.
correct.
And I was on strike when the tickets went on sale for the Duke tour in Sophia Gardens, but the tickets were supposed to be out the following week, and I went up to a rally with the striking miners, and the coach I went up on with all the Velindre boys stopped in Sophia Gardens. So as we were walking to City Hall, I just went to the Sophia Gardens box off. It was open, and I said, "Oh, Genesis tickets are on sale next week." She said, "Oh, what? Do you want one now?" I said, "Yeah, why?" They're not on sale. "Oh, yeah, if you want some. How many do you want?" I said, "How many can I have?" I ended up buying 50.
What? Really?
Yeah, yeah, because I knew all my friends would come, and I sold them like that.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, I ended up
Well,
going with Philip Harris. Do you know Phil?
yeah, well, I met him at Dem's mother's funeral when I
Got
met your
you.
brother.
Got you, got you. So I went with Phil, and Phil was my recollection of that is he was standing on. He had two small cans of brown ale that he stuck in with him, but he's a little bit shorter than I am, and he was standing on the two cans to give himself a little bit of extra height. I'm 6'3", so
Oh,
I'm that pain in the backside for most concert goers. I'm always very conscious that people might be standing behind me, but there's usually maybe a bit of a gap as people move to one side. But there's not much I can do about it. It's been a bonus many times when going to see concerts. That's for sure. I can always. I think the only band I couldn't get to see was actually Van Morrison, but that was in a really weird venue in London. Ooh, maybe 5 years ago. And whatever it was, low ceilinged, more like a club more than anything else, and some raised platforms. So I was at the back. I was actually raised too high. I couldn't see him. So
As After I left Velindre, I roadied for 2 years and didn't make any money, so I had to get a real job.
right.
And I got a job in England Hospital in medical physics. And one of the boys working in the estates department was a saxophonist, and he played on the Stranglers' first album. Is it Get a Grip track?
Oh, get a grip on yourself is
Yeah, well, that's
classic Stranglers.
Eric Clark, his name was, and he they asked him to join to go on tour, but he had a young family, he couldn't do it. And then he was asked by Van Morrison to join his band on tour, and somebody said, "Oh, don't work with him; he's a pain in the ass."
There
And
is that. There is
he
that.
turned it down. And then my daughter's was into musical theatre, and she was in Penyrheol. She was the lead in Hairspray, and Eric was playing saxophone in
Oh,
the band,
right,
um,
amazing.
doing the gig. Yeah.
Yeah. Did
So
you then? You mentioned because you're. I don't know whether you got your Swansea more than anything else, isn't it? So your
yeah,
Swansea, and you mentioned the Stranglers. Did you go to see them at the top rank in
yes, yeah. Well,
'77, maybe?
yeah, 70 or 78, yeah, one of those two. I remember John Jack Burnell jumped off stage and started fighting. That's the most thing I remember most about it.
Do you remember the ticket price?
No.
I
I've been
think that
looking
was about. I think it's about £1
what
60.
180, yeah, 160, 180 was it? Because I got a lot of my ticket stubs.
Oh, have you? Well, it's one of those, and are they some of them? You really you looked after them when you. I suppose when you go to the gig, you're keen to get the stub
Yeah,
torn off, and then you protect it and look after it. You don't just shove it in your trouser
yeah.
pocket.
And when they do rip the wrong half off, I'm fuming. And half the time, they do rip and give you the wrong half back. But there's uh, what's this one? Well, look, and if you can see it, it's Swansea top rank. It's canned heat
Wow.
and home supporting.
Yeah, I do see that. What year is that?
Uh, 75.
Right, so we're getting big into Swansea music here on this one. So you saw the Stranglers, you saw Genesis in Cardiff. Did you then see, as Dem saw, did you see Deep Purple at the Brangwyn Hall?
We talked about that. Dem phones me regularly, and we had a chat about it last week. I didn't see Deep Purple because I'd seen Man the night before in the top rank, and it was right in the middle of my O levels. And my parents they've always been pretty good, but there were two gigs that they wouldn't let me go to see family
Right.
in the top rank in 73, and it was the last but one gig family did before they split up. No, that's the only time I ever swore at my old man, and he
I was
chased
going
me
to
down
say
the road.
it's still with you now, but
Yeah, oh,
but
yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, I can certainly understand. But Man playing the night, but you must, and you probably saw Man many times
Oh,
though.
I've seen him about 15, 16 times. Yeah,
Right,
yeah. In fact, I found a couple of tickets. I saw them a couple of times in Penyrheol in the 80s
right.
because on one of the messages we sent, I said the first time I saw Man was Christmas 73, but I'd actually seen them in this 2 months before September in the Brangwyn Hall. And that was with my favourite lineup of Man with Phil Ryan, Will Ewart, Iggy on, the second guitarist.
Yeah,
And then they only lasted like a year and a half, and then they split up, and Deke Leonard came back, who was in the second lineup of Man. So
right. Yeah, as Phil Ryan, that was Clint, is it Clint? I can't remember. I can't remember. He was he a keyboard player and guitarist, I think, wasn't he?
no,
But
Clint is Clive John.
Clive John is what I'm thinking. I because again, my first night at the Coach House in Swansea, I couldn't tell you the exact year. I was probably in the fourth or fifth form. I was born in '64, so I'm a bit younger than yourself. But I went to the Coach House to see, somebody took us to see the Trembling Knees on a Monday night. And
Yeah,
it was Brian Breeze on guitar on that occasion. I'm convinced he was absolutely steaming. He was up to here, but his playing was
probably was.
breathtaking.
Oh, he's a
And
brilliant guitarist, Brian was.
the sound on that band in that you know, kind of such a small room as well. And yeah, Clive John Clint was there as well. And I never fully appreciated who he was. I don't know why. I'm embarrassed by it in many respects that as somebody from Swansea at that time, I kind of ignored them, didn't pay. I think they'd, in some respects, been and gone by the late '70s, and their peak might have been early
Man's, well, he
mid
left.
'70s.
He was on Be Good to Yourself at least once a day, and
Yeah.
then he left along with Martin Ace, the bass player, and Deke
Yes.
Leonard, and
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
replaced by Phil Ryan on keyboards, Will Ewart on bass, and Tweaky Lewis,
Tweaky.
who
Yeah.
was in a band called Wild Turkey. Did you ever see Wild Turkey?
And I've heard of Wild Turkey, and of course, isn't the other one Eyes of Blue? Is the other one I
Eyes of Blue.
keep
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
hearing
yeah.
lots of. But that did they break out of Swansea or not? I don't know if
Um,
Eyes of Blue did.
well, yeah, the Eyes of Blue, Port Talbot, Swansea, and Neath.
Yeah.
And
Because that was that Taff Williams on
Taff,
guitar,
yeah,
probably Terry Williams on drums. I'm thinking,
no,
was it not?
I think who the drummer was. Um,
And was Tweaky? Is it
no,
Tweaky Lewis? He wasn't in that either, was
he
he?
wasn't in that. No, Richie Francis, Gary Pickford Hopkins on
Right.
vocal
Okay.
was with Rick
Okay.
Wakeman.
Yes.
Um, who else is there? Phil Ryan. I forget anyway. But
And it's odd because I said what I would have been as a young man at that point, said in the kind of 1977, 78, denim jacketed, long hair. I was probably reading too much of Sounds and Melody Maker, and Man never really appeared in those. By that point, I think they were kind of,
well,
yesterday's news.
I saw their last tour. They split up in, I think it was the end of March '76, and
Right.
they all went to. It's amazing because um, I think it was Andrew Lauder was their manager. The man owned their own PA system, one of the very few ones that did. I don't
Right.
well, Andrew Lauder paid for it anyway. The crew that were with Man set up a company called Concert Sound, who became one of the most famous British
All
PA
right. Total
companies.
right. Okay.
And I knew one of the boys, Ashley Williams, who crewed with Man. He worked with Deep Purple. He worked with Whitesnake.
Right.
In fact, he sadly died in his 2015, and I was the one that told David Coverdale that he passed away. And David Coverdale sent flowers to the funeral.
Oh, really? Right. Well,
Yeah,
again, David Coverdale, I got a lot of time for. Said he would have been on that Deep Purple
yeah.
tour that you were at. I don't think Dem is so keen on Coverdale Deep Purple. I probably prefer them, to be honest.
Glenn Hughes.
Oddly,
Yes.
and I only about 3 months ago, I'd seen online he was touring again. I think he was in Camden or something, and I thought, oh, go on, I'll probably never get another. But anyway, it was sold out. Couldn't get any tickets. But he's still performing incredibly well. To be
Yeah,
honest with you, I don't know how he's managed to hang on to the voice. Coverdale as well, not so sure. But I
I saw
said,
him with Jimmy Page, Coverdale Page,
right.
Smith Odeon. That was about 85, I think, something like
Yeah,
that.
he would have been again at his probably at his peak at that point, but he's still out there performing now. But I hear him on podcasts. He's a great character. I see him on Twitter, and yeah, he's still very enthusiastic and very pumped about what it is that he's doing. It's kind of great to see because he
Well,
must be mid-70s.
definitely, yeah. But there's a story about that Deep Purple concert I didn't go to. I was a joking drummer. We know what it's like when you're in school. You get together. I played drums. Uh, Another boy on guitar, and there was a boy called Vernon Richards who was on vocals. And Vernon was a great rugby player. He had a Welsh schoolboy cap. He went on to play for Llanelli. But then the gig finished, he jumped on stage and he stole Blackmore's. And I'd love to know what it is because sadly Vernon passed away when he was about 39, 40. And
Right.
but a real character Vernon was. Oh,
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
think Blackmore is still unfortunately wearing rather strange hats. But saying
yeah.
that, listen, he's enjoying himself as well. He seems to kind of left his. Saying that, they didn't he, as Rainbow or Richie Blackmore a few years ago? He did do some kind. I think they went round did another pretty large tour, rather than the Blackmore's Night thing. I've heard
Yeah.
little bits of that, but it's not.
Well,
It's really not my. It's
no,
not
not
my
mine.
not my
But
bag.
I know Blackmore's got a Welsh family, isn't he? His grandparents from Wales.
I didn't know Roger Glover, I think,
He's from Brecon,
was,
Roger Glover, I
I
think.
believe so. And oddly enough, I said I'll have to throw my story out there now. I went to see Rainbow in 19, it might be 82 in Stafford Bingley Hall. We went for
Oh, I've
two
been there.
nights. Oh, talk about it. That's a bad venue. But I
Yeah,
think it is.
yeah.
It is a cow shed basically,
Well,
and
I saw Genesis there in the summer of '76, the hottest summer.
oh,
Oh, it was unbelievable. And that's the smell of cow
yeah,
poo.
correct,
When you get in there, well, with the heat and everything, it was unbelievable. But they filmed
amazing.
that show. It was one of the ones that was in, it was released. I forget the title of it, but they did Rick Wakeman did a thing for the Winter Olympics or something. They called White Rock.
White Rock or something, if I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Yes, I saw
And
the
then
movie.
the Genesis one they did about half an hour, but it was ruined because Tony Milam, who owned the rights, he halfway through stuff was ready, he had bloody planes coming in and bombing, and it ruined. It took it
It
all
didn't
away.
work. It didn't work. Well, we went to see Rainbow there for 2 nights on that occasion, and camped in the field opposite Bingley Hall, which basically meant we woke up in the morning with a tent surrounded by cows, which is a little bit terrifying, to be honest. But then we went down into town, found the hotel where Rainbow was staying. I'm a bit sad, really, but a couple of kind of 16, 17-year-old kind of heavy metal fans went into the hotel, sat in the hotel bar come breakfast room, and Don
Yeah,
Airy was in there, and he was lovely to us, and eventually
yeah,
got to meet all the band, Blackmore as well, and we ended up playing football in the field adjoining the hotel. And they said Roger Glover as well was with them at that time. And oddly enough, it's been said many, many times by others. They said you never want to meet your heroes because they're prone to letting people down. But
yeah,
oddly enough, and Blackmore had a terrible reputation, if you think about it, as a really kind of pedantic oddball, but he was fantastic with us. The whole band were, to be honest with you. And so, yeah, I've only got good things to say about it. But look, we've rattled forwards there. I want to go back.
Before we go, anyway, I don't know if you can see that. That's Yes at
Look at
Bingley
the
Hall,
look at the.
Stafford, going for
Oh,
the one tour in 1977 with Donovan as support.
hold on, is going for the one isn't 77, is it? I would have thought it would be later. It is 77, isn't it?
Yeah, because Tomato was 78. And that, you were talking to the other boys. You went up to the Tomato tour.
No, no, my brother did,
Oh,
but
your
I
brother, was
thought,
it? Oh, sorry.
yeah, I thought that it was in Bristol, but them said no, it was in
No, it's
London,
definitely what.
Wembley Empire Pool or whatever it was.
There's my ticket for that.
Right,
And Steve House had my ticket. We bumped into me on the way out.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Because I went up with a couple of friends and I'd hired a car to drive up, and everything went perfectly. So we came out to the show, we got back on the M4, and I'd never seen fog like it in my life.
Uh,
I've been driving coming up to 50 years, and that's the worst conditions I've ever driven in coming back.
right, blimey.
It took us over 5 hours to come home because I wouldn't do 30 mile an
Well,
hour.
well,
And there
I
were
wouldn't
cars
want.
tanking past us.
In,
What they
in,
could,
in comparison to now, 5 hours is not too bad, actually. I think my average time getting down to Swansea nowadays is probably about 5 hours. But so listen, let's wind the clock back if we can. And so said
Right.
I like to try and see. Let's hold on first single and first LP.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to know as to whether you've got any of what I would call these kind of musical memories. Just, I don't know, something where somewhere you remember being somewhere, something happening, and the music that went with it. You know what I mean? Is kind of locked
Well,
into place. So, and this you. I'm thinking, is there anything like that you can think of in your teenage years, or maybe before
my,
that? Any?
so in my early childhood, I was in the marching bands and the Welsh Guards. You know,
Yes.
for Christmas I had the red tunic and the bear skin, and I there must have been photos somewhere, but after my mother passed away, I've been through. I can't find them anywhere.
Right.
So I was into brass bands, and for some reason I've never taken to strings. So orchestral music, just
Right.
classical stuff. But give me a brass band anytime. I've seen a few of the,
Well, try a bit of Wagner, maybe. You may well find there's because Wagner even created, I can't remember what it's called, but a form of French horn
yeah.
that was he made just for his music, which I don't think he's used anywhere else. But there's some major brass pieces in that music. But so okay, but move on more contemporary wise.
Well,
What are
Beatles.
you? Yeah, all right. How old are
So
you? Remind me now. I can't.
I'm I'll be 67 in October.
So 67, you're born then in
57. Yeah.
57, my God. So you would have been 10 years of age, nine
Yeah.
years of age when Sergeant Pepper's was coming out. Then. I mean,
Well,
that's
I was into the Beatles by the age of
62,
6.
60, yeah,
Yeah.
63 maybe,
From
yeah.
the beginning. In fact, I don't know if I brought my singles. I got all my original singles here. I don't know if you can see them. It's,
Let me see. Oh wow! And they're the original items, are they? From oh look,
original
mono
parlophone,
singles.
twist and shout. Uh, yeah, and it was 60 years ago last month that the Herald of Wales did a piece on me because in February I was learning to write. I was only about 6, and I said to my mother, "How do you spell fairy, fairyland, and this, that, and the other?" Anyway, unbeknownst to my mother, I'd written to Father Christmas in February asking for a Beatles outfit, a wig, and a guitar.
Right, got you.
And I posted it with a Toy Town stamp on it. And somehow it made its way to the Evening Post. And they sent a reporter up the house.
Oh
And
really?
I got it here somewhere after my passed away. I've got the actual paper, and it was 60 years ago last month. I've been trying to find it to put it on the Swansea History site, but it'll come to me one day. And
Yes.
when I got married, my cousin Roland, who's my gatekeeper or gate,
Ah, right. Okay.
he um he blew it up and brought it up in his speech, and it was
Brilliant. No, that's super. Well, it's quite
I
extraordinary the gigs you've been to. I can see why you and Dem kind of connected because his when you've had many emails from him probably over the years, but
oh
his
yeah, yeah,
emails I've got like huge lists of what he's got in terms of digital music there.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's like it's verging on an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, mine are my albums are there in alphabetical order, although they
yeah.
do get slightly out of order over a period of time. But it doesn't compare to
Oh,
said his cataloging of his vast
oh.
collection. But have you got a similar collection there as well? Then are you
Well,
CD or are you
I did have loads of albums, but my son commandeered them.
right?
But because he's back home living with us after 12 years away, him and his partner split up. But he likes vinyl. Um,
he's
once,
he's come to the right place then, by the looks of it. As I
yeah,
said,
yeah. Oh, he can't go buy a charity shop without going in and buying a vinyl.
right.
um, but no, once CD, I'll never forget. I was in New York in '80. That what turned me to I think it was JNR's Music, which is down by Park Place, not far from the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was in there, and Sting's keyboard player, Kenny Kirkland, was in there, and I'd seen him a couple of months before with Sting in the NEC. I'm like, oh, Kenny. But anyway, it was the first time I'd really seen a massive collection of
Of
CDs.
CDs.
And I thought, well, this is the future. I'm going to have to get one. So I came back. I'd gone up to see Genesis in Madison Square Garden. And I came home. I bought CD player. And the first thing I bought was Dire Straits' Brother in Arms.
Right. But did you go to New York to see Genesis? That was because I went about 10 years ago, or maybe more. I went to New York to see Steely Dan at the Beacon Theatre in New York, and
Yeah.
I put that down as that's pretty far out going that kind of. But you did that. You did it 30 odd years ago. Internet where I don't even think. Booking a
But
flight overseas wouldn't have been as
yeah,
easy back then either. And how did you know the gig was taking place?
I don't know if you remember, there was a company called Mead Gold Promotions from Brighton. We used to do
Right.
organized trips. In fact, I think they did the first one was 81 when my brother and two other apprentices that were with Andrew Nutt, Peter Williams and what's the other one? Phil Tresida. They came with me and we had one of the best trips ever. It was a real piss up.
Yeah, no,
we spent
amazing,
we
amazing.
spent the night in Dusseldorf, uh, and we were there till 4 or 5 in the morning just drinking, and then the hotel hadn't long opened, and all booked in my name. And when we went to check out, two of the boys, Phil and Peter, said, "Got a bit of bad news for you. We were fighting on the bed, and the legs have snapped off." So as we left, we balanced the top of the bed on the legs, so when they did an inspection, I didn't lose my deposit.
Got you. Blimey. Well, let's hope it was just fighting that was going on in that bed. And but there we are. You're not even suspicious. The first thing I thought, hang on a second, what's going on there? What's going on? But you remember? So you remember those tours? I think I might remember the name of that company, but. Also, you must recall, and that Derek's Records in Swansea used to do. I think he used to do trips. I went to see Donington 1980 with.
I was there, AC/DC.
No, Rainbow. First Donington, August 16th, 1980.
81 the following year, I saw.
81 is probably the one then. So it was 1980. I think that's all I got from Derek's. We may have. I'm not even sure if we got the tickets there or if we just paid for the bus. But that was, as I said, I always found, said even going to London to see gigs, going to Bingley Hall, that was dreadful. We used to have to get the train to Birmingham and then get a train from Birmingham to Stafford. And then we would sleep in the Stafford train station waiting for the early train to come in. I mean...
Well, in 76, when we saw Genesis, trains were still running late at night. So we got back to Birmingham. We had a curry. There were 6 of us went, and in fact, we met a couple of boys who ended up working in the Bringwin with my cousin, and I'm still friends with them now.
Right.
And after a curry, so it must have been 1 or 2 in the morning before we got the train back to Swansea.
Well, I'm stunned. Like I said, I went there on 2 occasions to see Rainbow. The first time we just went for 1 gig. The second time we went for 2, and then we went to see Rush there for 2 nights. So that was another one, sleeping in a tent. And then I saw Whitesnake there as well in probably about 82 on the Come and Get It tour. Where they had Ian Pace and John Lord. It was the closest they ever got, saying the closest they ever got to Purple. Oddly enough, I was going through some pictures on Facebook earlier on, and I went to see Deep Purple at the Birmingham NEC maybe 10, 12 years ago. With Morse on guitar, Morse on guitar. But I tell you, it was incredible. I bought the tickets on Viagogo, paid £5 over the actual list price. 2nd row, centre stage. Quite extraordinary view. I like Steve Morse, but he's a very. I knew him from Dixie Dregs, and he's a very unique guitar player with his own sound, his own style, and he was clearly not Blackmore, and I like Blackmore big time. But the guy that Purple have got now is very impressive. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I went to see them last year. As I said, my one of my daughters works at Computer Centre. They've got a box at the O2, and they had some tickets that had been dumped on the day. Some customer didn't want to go, so I managed to go along. Blue Oyster Cult in support.
In them as well, yeah.
I mean, Don't Fear the Reaper. Thank you. I'll have that. And then I think when I was watching it, I thought if Purple are going to be like this, which is it was just very, we're here, we're going to do a contracted period of time on stage and we're off. If Purple are like this, I'm not even going to stay. But they were great. They were great. And that new guitar, he's breathtaking. And at times, he plays clearly, in my opinion. He's very respectful to what Blackmore has done, and kind of definitely you get parts of Blackmore's playing when he's playing, but he's blisteringly fast in a way the guitar players just were not 30 years ago. I mean, you showed it again on our WhatsApp Musical Differences group. You showed some. I haven't watched it yet. The kid drum. I'm not even shocked by these things anymore. But some kind of 8-year-old Japanese kid on drums. It's like, I mean, it's like, please. I mean, yes, they're out there. They're always were child prodigies, though, in many respects. But what these kids have at their disposal, whether it's in terms of the equipment available, plus the teachers that might be available, and what they can get online. I mean. It's incredible. Oh, but let's go back in time. I'm going to nearly then say we'll go with first. So those were your first singles, surely, or was there
the Beatles? Yeah,
it was the Beatles, and you were. So you.
I didn't buy them. My parents bought them for me.
Right. Okay. But did you have an older brother or sister? Maybe.
No, I'm the eldest.
So they bought them for you. Your parents didn't like the Beatles, did they?
My mother probably would have, because my mother was very musical. In fact, she
Right.
sang the Boston Ladies Choir till she was 87.
Musical, but not necessarily rock and
Yeah, well,
roll in many
no, no.
respects. I
She
mean,
was
I'd say everybody who's Welsh is musical, if we're honest
musical
about it, in my
gene. It's been
opinion.
proved, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were more James Last. And
Well, there we are.
we had an old radiogram. And I think the first decent stereo system we had was 1969. And my godfather knew somebody who told him what to buy, and we bought exactly the same. It was a
Right.
Garrard SP 25 Mark III
So Garrod was a turntable, was it? Or was that a
turntable.
mono player or a separate
No,
turntable?
a separate turntable.
Wow.
Um, a Teleton amplifier. I've never heard of them since. And
Yeah.
then Wharfdale speakers, and I've
Oh,
still got
really?
two Wharfdale speakers here. They're over 50-year-old.
They're not the
Because
same Wharfdale speakers, though, are they?
yeah,
Oh,
they
are
got the
they?
originals. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I think they call is it Denton twos or whatever they
Oh,
are.
no. Are you sure they're Wharfdales and not Celestians then?
No, Wharfdale.
Right, because
Well,
I had a pair of Celestian Dittons. Maybe,
yeah,
I don't know what Ditton is then. I had a pair of Celestian Ditton 22s that I bought second hand, but I only bought, that was about 20 odd years ago. I got rid of them maybe a few years back. They were bought by some traders from, well, I put them up for sale, and the guy turned up. He had a van full of. He was basically collecting musical gear in the UK, and it was just all being shipped back to Hong Kong. So I had it all set up in the living room here, and he came in and he got up the camera, so the guys in the Hong Kong shop were watching and listening because they were in, I wouldn't say pristine condition, but they were a great pair of speakers. Sorry to see them go. I don't think they're as good as I've got a couple of lovely Klipsch speakers here now, but it's
yeah,
something very special about old speakers.
yeah.
So it's wonderful. Is that what you still
I
typically will play your music through?
I got a surround sound system, so I got Jamo PR 128s by the 50-inch TV in front of me. I got my own Wharfdales behind me, but my godfather, who recommended we bought the same system as him, passed
Yes.
away, and his son gave me his two, so I got two out of my shed. So I got four Wharfdales exactly the same, two as the back speakers here, two system I got in my shed. That was my
Gotcha.
lockdown. I retired a week before lockdown, and my project was knock the old garage down, and I built a cracking shed. And my son's commandeered that now. He's got like a 42-inch TV,
Right.
uh,
But so you've got
Panasonic, and
it's wired for sound then basically, is it?
oh yes, yeah,
Right. Yeah, awesome. I've got much of, I say, I'm in here. This is my music room and my home office as well. So if those are your first singles, is it at this point was your first album Sergeant Pepper's or one of the early Beatles albums,
no.
or was it James Last plays the Beatles?
This was my first album. I didn't buy it myself.
Oh, lovely.
That was my first one.
Yeah, it's a beautiful album, though, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah, yeah. But the first album I actually bought myself wasn't until '72, and it was the history of Eric Clapton.
Yeah, well, at this point, of course, Eric Clapton was God, wasn't he? I mean,
Yeah,
I still can't understand how the British public or the American public came to that conclusion. I have a feeling that public relations and
it's
propaganda might have had a lot to do with it,
it's great.
and the introduction of graffiti, the spray can of
Yeah,
Clapton is God,
God.
because I don't think he was ever that. There might be people listening or watching that are horrified by what I'm saying. He's never done it for me. I mean, he's a good player. I
Yeah,
can't, but
similarly.
you know,
I like
but Peter Green probably would have been a better player at that time. Would be my because they would have been contemporaries. I think I'm no big lover of the music. Listen, just say George Harrison's guitar playing in the Beatles was perfect for the time, but nothing to write home about in many respects. I'm just trying to think who the first. Well, say Hendrix would have been was the first true guitarist in my mind, and he blew them all away. I've never been into Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page has
I've
never done
never.
it.
Oh, I love Jimmy Page. I got his book by his. I don't know what it is about Jimmy. He was a session musician. He played on practically everything before
Yes, that's right.
from
That's
Led
right. So
Zeppelin.
this session is again there's a technique to what he does, but it's listen,
Pain as he
he
is.
is. I would peak it and put him above Clapton. The other interesting one, Pete Townsend. Pete Townsend, not necessarily as a lead guitarist, but as I said, as a songwriter, and some of the stuff with the Who. Well, I mean, I don't even feel the need to ask. The Who, Vetchfield,
That's
19 whatever it was.
yeah. The
You were there.
June the 9th, I saw Genesis in Hammersmith, and 3 days later, I saw the Who at the Vetch. But I'd seen the Who in October previously, the Empire Pool Wembley, as it was called then, and brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Was the Empire Pool always, or Wembley
It's
as was it always as bad? My
oh yeah,
memories of it was that
it's
it sounded
it's a shed,
terribly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hammersmith Odeon, as I still
Oh,
call it to this day, is still
yeah,
probably my favourite venue, and it still, well, it still has all the features as would have been the case. I'm sure you've got better PA systems now
but
than
yeah,
you would have
line
had
arrays in
back
it, yeah,
then.
yeah.
But the reality is the venue lent itself, I think, to good acoustics. But yeah, Wembley and Empire Pool, not for me. So Clapton for other albums of that era. What were you buying?
Well, let's go with singles first
What have you
because
got? And where were you buying
it,
it, Ronnie?
um, Derek's, I bought most of my
It
albums
was
from over the
Derek's, was it?
years,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I can't remember where I bought this. But it's the first one single I bought myself was Neanderthal Man by Hot Legs, who turned into 10cc.
Right.
But so that was about 1970.
And I
My
just want to make sure here for the listeners or viewers, because of course you are Colin, but I've called you
yeah,
Ronnie, but you're Colin, you're Ronnie, and
yeah,
you're Ronnie the Cod. You're just a combination of all of these. So just in case there. And the
yeah.
other one
Don't
I just
worry.
want to point out there, you mentioned
I
Derek's. So that's Derek's Records from Oxford Street in
Christos. Yeah,
Swansea. Christos, and I know
I know Christos
Christos.
for donkey's years. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
did you
remember his
know?
mother.
So, right. So I worked
My,
at Picton Music. I don't know if you
yeah,
ever.
yeah. Well, I said
Uh,
I knew Richard Allison. Yeah,
you did? Oh, did you? So were you in Scouts with Richard
I was in
Allison?
Scouts with him.
Oh,
Yeah,
blimey, yeah. Oddly
and
enough, his wife got in touch with my wife only a couple of days ago. It's about 4 years. I think it was 4 years ago this week
yeah,
that
it's sad,
that he
tragic.
passed away.
I knew
And
he passed, but I didn't know the circumstances, and it's
right, yeah, yeah. No, a consequence. I would say seriously bad luck. Bad luck. He'd always been of ill health, though. You know that he'd had problems with his. I think it was a form of arthritis that he had since he was a boy. But they were a music shop at one point. Or Pictons used to sell records.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not a very fun. But then I said he knew Christos really well. So and
yeah,
Derek's
yeah.
is still there to this day. Sean is still there with him, and
Yeah, well,
uh,
yeah,
I say I left there in '86, and plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. I believe the phrase is the more things change, the more they stay the
but
same. So there are that's correct. That's where I learned that phrase as well.
well, I
That's not
first saw
permanent waves, I think, isn't it?
I saw Permanent Waves in Hammersmith Odeon.
I'm saying that. Hang on. So I saw. Yeah, permanent waves would have been. So permanent waves. Permanent waves is after
1982.
hemispheres.
Yeah.
So I mean that would have been so that was them in the kimonos. I would have said then, was it? But not permanent
No, no,
waves. No,
no,
they'd moved out. When was moving pictures? Was moving pictures before permanent waves?
no, after it.
No,
Yeah, the
after I saw them.
next
That was
one.
the first time I
Ah,
saw them. Actually, it wasn't permanent. It wasn't moving pictures. It was Exit Stage Left
there's left. Yeah,
tour. So I think Exit Stage Left was a semi moving pictures tour. My
yeah,
pals from Gassine and they went to see Rush. I would say that was 79, Stafford Bingley Hall, and I think that was Hemispheres, or they
yes,
maybe it was so
probably hemispheres. Yeah, but as I say, I'm a failed drummer, but Fiat, wow, incredible. Yeah,
yes.
I've seen them about.
How many gigs have you been to then? If you've been to 50 Genesis gigs, 30 Peter Gabriel, I mean, and you're
I,
rattling them off here, right? You must have been see at your peak 30 gigs a year, maybe type of.
Oh, at least, yeah. First, I saw Yes 50 years ago on the Topographic Oceans tour last December in Cardiff. So I tell you what,
Because
my
there was
first,
never, tell me, but I always felt we were starved in South Wales because the bands really never came. Some did, sometimes, but you had to travel a lot for this as well, though. I mean, a lot of what you're saying, you had to
well,
go to
no,
London.
but surprising, Swansea, it's a couple of years before you hit the gig scene, was, well, first band I ever saw was King Crimson, Swansea Top Rank, in, I think it's December the 6th, 1972. And Bruford and Jamie May were on drums. Um, First band I ever saw with two drummers. And then I saw them again in 2015. First band I ever saw with three drummers.
Yes, yeah.
uh,
1972, what album would that have been then, though? Is that a.
it was just before Larkstown in Aspect.
Right, I'd said, no, never, Frippers never really
No,
done it for me big time. But did you go to the Toyo Wilcox
no, I
Robert
didn't.
Fripp?
No,
You
no,
didn't go to
no,
that. So I
no.
came down to Swansea recently because that was on at the same time. I came to see the Australian Pink Floyd,
All right.
which you've probably seen on a number of occasions.
I haven't.
You
I
refuse.
I saw.
You've seen
I
Pink Floyd 30 times.
No, I've seen Floyd 8 times. I think it is.
Right.
I saw them Animals tour first, and then the Wall, then 89, 94, a couple of times. But I saw Roger Waters. That's another story. I was playing rugby for the England hospital team on a Sunday morning. We were playing down in Underhill Park against Fords, and in the first minute, I broke my wrist. But I was going to see Roger Waters and the Bleeding Heart Band in Wembley Arena that night. So up to the pub, a couple of pints and a load of painkillers, and brilliant gig. It was Radio Chaos tour, and it was I enjoyed that better than Floyd, to be honest. And
Yes.
um, got back into Morriston by about 4 o'clock in the morning. I was in casualty till 6. Come out with my arm in plaster. Home, quick wash, straight into work. Oh, God.
That's very impressive, I have to say. Yeah, very impressive. But so that Radio Chaos is a I like that as it's a really good album.
That's
But
the one. Yeah, with this
where was that live then? Where was that?
Wembley Arena.
That was Wembley Arena, was it? So
Yeah,
Chris Tanner and I went to see him in the Palladium just before Christmas
yeah,
at
yeah.
doing. Have you listened to the Dark Side of the Moon Redux?
I've played it, but I wouldn't. It's, it's. I can't make my mind up. It's, I don't know.
But
But
it is Roger Waters and Pink Floyd for me, to be honest with you. I'm the Sid Barrett stuff a little bit too quirky and a bit too
for me.
gong, a bit too pothead pixies, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
I think
That
from Medal onwards, I started reading
yes,
Floyd, and I missed them in '75. I was supposed to go to Nebworth to see them, but I didn't. I was gutted. Let's say I saw them '77, and then.
gotcha.
But
So
no,
what about influences for you then? So the you said by the sounds of it, then you don't have an older brother or sister. You got an godfather or whatever that was giving you kind of tips on equipment.
yeah,
But so likely then, just from what people were saying at school or what you were seeing on Top of the Pops on a Thursday evening at 7:20 on BBC. But do you who was an early
my cousin Roland,
influencer?
my
Right.
cousin,
Tell us about Roland.
his sister Catherine was in Demery and your brother's class. In fact, your brother went out with them when she was about 15, I think. I didn't know that until
What's her name?
Catherine Williams from Llangabella.
All right. Okay. Name doesn't ring a bell with me, but there were
No,
lots,
no,
lots of Catherines and lots of Williams
yeah, oh, yeah,
back in the
yeah.
day.
But he was 18 months older than me because he was in Susan Demley's class in Cwmtawe School.
Right.
So Susan had to go from Gorsinan to Pontardawe to go to school every day.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is. It's the boundaries they had in those days. And there was another boy, Stephen Morris, that Demery was on about from the St. Catherine's Youth Club or something. He was,
Right.
I think he was in their class as well. but sadly he committed suicide in '86. So
Oh,
yeah, but he was a lovely. I worked with him at Velindre. He was an
was that the
electrician.
guy who ran the youth club? We think, is
Yeah,
it? Oh
yeah,
dear,
yeah,
oh dear. That's terribly sad.
yeah. But yeah, so they lived in Llangefella, Roland and Catherine, and he was 18 months older than me. So he was my biggest influence. He's the one that got me into Genesis. So, but and Man. So, but he was like Led Zeppelin 1 was one of his first albums, and he's got,
Right.
sadly, he passed away in 1995. He had cancer. Well, there's a story behind that. The wife and I met at a wedding. In fact, the couple both went to Penyrheol School. A bloke called Clive Morris, and his wife was Helen Page from Garden Village.
Right.
I was an usher of a good friend of Clive, and my wife worked with Helen, and we met. She was sober, I was absolutely steaming, but the smooth talking, I can't even remember meeting her, unfortunately. And then they set me up, which was a blind date because I couldn't remember her. The rest is history. Went out. The first time we properly went out was the day after I went to see Simple Minds in Cardiff, and I was drunk when she came to pick
Dear.
me up.
I'm just
And
stunned by the amount of concerts. I would have said I was a reasonably steady concert goer, but
yeah,
I don't think I've met anybody in your league. Bearing in mind, you're from South Wales. If you'd have been living in Swansea, sorry, if you'd have been living in London, it wouldn't have been so much of a surprise. There might have been gigs
no, no,
every
no.
night of the week you could have
Yeah,
gone to, but in South Wales it was seriously limited. But by the sounds of it, you didn't seem to have a problem with getting on a train, getting from A to B, but also maybe even I don't know if it was renting a car, but driving to see a gig.
yeah.
We were too young. I don't think we drove to any gigs at all. We were too young for that. And then by the time I probably was driving, I probably wasn't going to see gigs. I then moved to London in '86, and
Yeah.
a lot of the time then I was going to see bands at the Town and Country Club. I don't know if you ever went there, which was
No,
a
I didn't.
great venue. Just I think it's just outside Camden. It doesn't, I don't think it exists anymore as a venue. But and I'd kind of shifted into kind of jazz rock at that time. Dem had
Well,
taken me down the Weather Report rabbit hole in some respects, and I've
well,
gone down
my
there.
cousin
Then it was
Roland did the same for me.
right.
There's, I think it's Heavy Weather was the first album I bought. But Swansea, there was gigs everywhere in those days. The Top Rank, the
Top rank.
University.
Yes.
So Roy Harper down there. Well, I didn't you say you went to see Bill Bruford and Brand
I
X?
saw Bill Bruford and Brand X there. Yeah,
Right.
that was crazy. I saw the Eurythmics in Swansea University as well.
All right.
Big Country at the Brangwyn Hall,
Yeah. I saw
and
them in
these were
Leith in 2015.
they were playing in Hitchin a few weeks ago. My brother saw. Oh yeah, my brother saw them somewhere in Swansea, maybe last year, and
Oh yeah, I think they played Paddy. I think they did recently.
yeah, he
Long
is.
back, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, they don't have Stuart
Well,
Adamson
Stuart
there
Adamson. Yeah,
anymore,
yeah, yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
I'm assuming it was the guitar player and maybe the drummer, maybe the bass player. I don't know, but he didn't. If he'd have given me the slightest inclination that it was worthwhile, I'd have gone to see him. They might have been playing in Hitchin. But then saying that, I've got a, I even bought. I've got to that. I'm just trying to think. Have you ever bought tickets for a concert and then just not bothered to go?
No,
Yes, you've got,
always turned up. Yeah.
I've probably done that on a couple of occasions, more than a couple probably, where you buy the ticket and then, oh, it's really I've got to make a trek from A to B or whatever. But and one of them was it's terrible really because it's only about 8 miles from it. It was only in Hitchin, but it was Gong about two
Ah,
years ago. It might have been during lockdown. I got into Gong during I got big into Steve Hillage and Gong at one point during lockdown and but Steve Hillage wasn't with them. But they were playing over in Hitchin. I bought the ticket. I bought the ticket months in advance, and then just on the night, I think it was. I say lockdown knocked the stuffing out of. I can't remember at what period of lockdown it was, but it just the decision making process I went through. I just thought, oh, no, I'll leave it. I'll stay here for the night. So,
Well, I saw Steve Hillage in Swansea Top Rank.
What year?
Oh,
That would have been probably about Green
70s.
around that time. Yeah, got to be, isn't it? I
78,
mean, at
something
his
like
peak,
that.
at his peak, at his
Oh,
peak, I would have
brilliant.
thought.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Really,
got
really
to
enjoyed.
say, I got Green, I've got Motivation Radio, I got a few of the albums here, and then I did buy a double.
The Live Herald.
Really, just I've got that as well. But I bought a guitar album. I think it was his recordings from the Green sessions that have then been remastered or whatever. I think he's a lovely player. Really,
Yeah.
I really like his style. Where,
Well,
where are you on Mike Oldfield? Where are you on?
I've never been into I like the first album, but I've never seen him live, and I'll go and see anybody live, to be honest.
Except Mike Oldfield, from what you're saying.
Well, there are I went to see Michael Jackson. I'm not a big fan, but I said, I got to go. I saw him in car. I really enjoyed it. I thought he was
Yes.
very, very good. You
Yeah.
know, the worst band I've ever seen, and people will not be, it was Black Sabbath.
Now,
I
I
saw
hope you're
them.
not going to say Sapphire Gardens.
No. It was the Capitol Theatre in Cardiff in '76.
Wow.
If they just had an off night or not. They just seemed disjointed. They just didn't seem to be playing like a band. They just seemed to be four individuals.
Well, it's possible.
Sad.
Well, in which case, I'm assuming you had such a bad night, you didn't even attempt to get a ticket to go and see them in Sapphire Gardens again, that would have been 80 or 81. Ronnie Dio on vocals.
Yeah.
They sold something like 2,000 more tickets than they should have sold. So there was basically a police issue there on the night, and they ended up letting half the crowd in early. Band came on, did an hour-long set. People were smashing windows and jumping in from 30 foot up, and then we were all turfed out, and then the other half came in. They had to do 2 sets that night. But that was the deal. I was saying that, and I saw Sabbath in Hyde Park, 8, maybe. I've got no grasp of time anymore, but maybe 10 years ago when they headlined at that British summertime thing. But have you been to any of those?
No.
So I know you went. So you went right. So I don't like the big outdoor concert, but of course your original path crossing with them was it
Zeppelin.
Nebworth for Zeppelin?
I met him was at your brother's 18th, but
right.
he made such a good impression on me. I couldn't remember, because every time I said, "Oh, first time I met you was at Zeppelin," he said, "No, you met me the year before."
Down the Jip.
Yeah.
I saw on Facebook today somebody saying, "Can anyone say what happened at the what happened at the Jip today this afternoon?" I believe there might have been some.
I know there's a chap in. I think he's in a coma in Cardiff, so
as a consequence of that.
Yeah, a chap from Penlan, I think. I don't know. Well, you know what the Jip is like. It's but I don't know if he was attacked or what, but they had to, I think, either fly him or take him up to Cardiff.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh well, I was assuming it just might have been, I don't know, just maybe kind of too many people, a little bit too tanked up, but it sounds like it might have been worse than that. But
I forget.
Welcome to Gorsinan, unfortunately.
Somebody mentioned, I think his name was Phil the Pop or something from Penlan.
Brilliant. So we have Phil the Pop, and we got Ronnie the Cod here, of course, on this one. I do love the nicknames. My father, I think I said before, was David Edwards, but he was a plumber, and he was known as Die Tap, and at the London Welsh club that I go to, I should say lodge in London, one of the guys there is Die Box, the Undertaker. Brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I used to get a meat off Die Butch.
Die Butch, well, there's a Die Butch in every town, I would have said. My father had a couple of pals, I think, with Die Butch. But, So I
Yeah.
said, so favorite. What would you say then? So we've got those some of those early albums, but what would you say that some of the most enduring records that you've played throughout all of what must be now then effectively a 60-year listening period?
Yeah.
Uh, what are the? I don't mean it as a kind of desert island discs here, this one, but what do you think are the albums of that you particularly
Probably
have pulled out
three
more
live
than any
albums.
others?
Seconds Out would be one from
Is
Genesis.
it? Is
Yeah.
it that good?
Yeah. Everybody complains Hackett isn't high enough in the mix, but I just because I saw that I guess 4 times, and including Earl's Court they did, and Earl's Court is a hanger, an aerodrome
Yes.
hanger.
They've
But
knocked it down now, I believe.
yeah. But the sound on that night, and Richie Havens was supporting, who was great, was one of the best I've ever heard, and that was before Line Arrays came into
Right.
being. Phenomenal
But
sound.
Seconds Out, is that Phil Collins or not Peter Gabriel, is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
That's there's one track with Bruford, the cinema show with Bill Bruford, which was um, recorded in Paris in the
Right.
Palais de Sport.
Yeah.
That was 76, and then 77, the same place. Chester Thompson was with them, and
So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to conflict with these other two live albums that you got going here. But if I was to say Genesis or Yes,
Genesis,
Genesis or Pink Floyd,
Genesis.
it is it. Yeah, they are the one then.
I don't know what happened. I think
Right.
it was the
Well,
Genesis
well,
live. Being a crap drummer, I think Collins did something. Bang,
yes.
the early stuff that he was drumming on, and
What was that track that was it Supper's Ready that you linked the other night
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
from Iceland that listening to that I then realized so I was never. I'm just trying to think. I bought some Floyd. I've only ever bought Genesis albums second. You know what I mean? I didn't buy them when they were coming out new. I bought them just to add to my collection more than anything else. But listening to that track the other night, the musicality of it, you can see Floyd very different. Floyd
Yeah.
doesn't never the Genesis stuff can take you all the way up. It can literally lift you musically, ethereally as it feels. It's just like some of the melodies and the harmonics of it all lift you away. I don't think you get that with Floyd. Floyd are much more, I wouldn't say a dirge,
Even,
tuneful
yeah,
to a degree, but yeah. Although I would say, the guitar solo for things like "Comfortably Numb" does have an element of that kind of uplift to it. But and Yes have that as well. But there's not as many Yes songs. The tracks they don't stick. Perhaps I never listened to enough of them. I probably know Close to the Edge reasonably well. But okay, so Genesis Seconds Out. You were saying, oh, is it live albums? Is that what you go for? Is it?
well, no, it's just that I think Joni Mitchell,
Oh,
Shadows of Light would be,
yeah, I know it.
and that's mainly Pat Metheny and Jaco Pastorius.
Jacko and Peter Erskine on drums, if I remember rightly, isn't it? I
No,
mean,
it's no, Peter Erskine isn't on that one. Who was it?
is it Steve Gadd?
Don Elias, I think it is.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah. If anything, he's the weak link. It's good, but
Right. Well, maybe he
but
should have had Peter Erskine. Peter Erskine,
yeah,
I think, should have been there. That's what I was thinking with
yeah,
regards
yeah, yeah.
to that line.
I
And
think,
that's lovely.
well,
Um,
Lyle Mays is my favorite keyboard player, and
yeah, Lyle Mays.
sadly, he's no longer with us.
He's no longer here. I would have seen Pat Metheny band with Lyle Mays again back in late '80s and something along those lines. So
Well, Dem and I saw them in Hammersmith Odeon. I think it was '84 for 2 nights, and my brother came with us. And in between, I had an interview to work for Tasco as a lighting engineer, but I didn't get it because my electronics wasn't up to it.
right, but you're so you well you're that enthusiastic. You were no good on the drums, but effectively you tried to work in the music industry, from what you're saying, did you?
Yeah. But it wasn't paying enough. If I'd
No,
have
I was
had
going to
that,
say,
if
yeah,
I'd have had that job at Tasco, I think that was 84. They were paying 18 grand then.
yeah. Well,
So,
that's pretty good
but
money then, wasn't it?
it's excellent because the normal
Yes.
about 9 was the average, so it was
Right.
double.
Right.
Um, yeah, so been made redundant from British Steel in 81 after the big strike the following year.
Right.
I'd also did, and well, I was young. I was only 25, I think it was, and head full of money, redundancy money. So me and my mate just buggered off to Mallorca for the summer.
So
And when I
okay, we got Genesis seconds out. We've got Joni Mitchell, Shadows and Light.
yeah
Give me a clue as to what the third one might be. Then can you give me a little? Just give me a little. Can you give me a hint in some way, shape, or form? Would I be able to guess it? It's a live double.
well, it's partly live. Yeah,
Oh. Well, it could say that could be Thin Lizzy, because I believe
so
that had a reputation. Live and Dangerous had a reputation for not being wholly live, but that's not where you're going on this time, by the sounds of it. It might be. I don't know. It's
I
not a
put it out
Zappa
of your
album, is it?
misery. No, it's Man.
It was right. Okay, I didn't
Back
think it would
into
be
the
like that.
Back into the Future,
What's the
and
cover? It was at the train station
train
one.
station. It's
Yeah, I got it.
Taplow. It's at Taplow, just outside near Henley.
Right.
I, every time I go through it, there was a
I
camera
bet you
trying to
do.
catch
I
it,
bet
and
you do. I
it's
bet.
doing 125, but then it's just
Yeah,
blur.
yeah. No, I've got the. I'm sure I've got the album. I've got most of the Man albums, but I only started even listening to them, let's say 15 years ago. So since that time, it's not as if anything that I buy new, nothing really gets played to the
Yeah,
same
well, extended,
extent,
yeah.
other than the one that them uh, pointed me to recently, this Third Mind. I don't know if you've picked up
Yes, yeah. I've seen a few of their the
on that.
videos. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
kind of there's only two albums, so that makes it kind of easy. But I've kind of slipped into that
Jam
recently.
band. Well, that's what Man were renowned for. They go off on a
Correct.
tangent, really. Because I first got into them when it was in '73. I bought the Greasy Truckers album, which was recorded, I think, the year before in
At the Patty, wasn't it?
no, it was in not Dingwalls, the Roundhouse, I think.
Yes, yes,
Hawkwind, Brinsley Schwartz
yeah.
turned out, was what do you call it? Nick Lowe was with Brinsley Schwartz. Um, and it's only two tracks they do, but Spunk Rocks is like 22 minutes long, and they just go off on a tangent, and I just love it. But there's another version of the following year when the band lineup changed, and there's a track called Jam Up Jelly Tight, and that's like 20 minutes long, and they just and Terry Williams, he's not a technical drummer, but he's brilliant. He just shuffles along, and he
Yeah.
is. I love Terry Williams's drumming.
I follow him on Facebook,
Yeah,
and
and I do.
he has played with virtually everybody. I
Yeah,
mean, something all of a sudden you see a photo. He's with Jerry Lee
yeah,
Lewis, or he's with I don't know, but he is yeah, he was a solid rock drummer. Again, Batter to Hell, I think was didn't need because again it's interesting his route
he,
to that because it was he played for Man, and then from Man I think Man had the same manager or something about him, an agent, and I think that was what got him
I,
introduced
the
into
Rock Pile was his next band.
Rock Pile, right? Again, Dave Edmonds,
Saw them in the top rank.
right?
Yeah. I forgot to tell you, it was Ian Gillan. I saw the Gillan band in
I saw
top
Gillan
rank
in the top rank.
with
I saw them
with,
there a couple of times.
with
What about Marillion?
Budgie.
Have you ever seen Marillion in the top rank?
No, I've seen Marillion in, where is it?
Penyrheol Leisure Centre.
Penyrheol Leisure Centre.
I was there.
Oh, yeah? Oh, good.
Yes, I was there. Unfortunately, Phil Harris, Fat Harris, introduced me and my pals to amyl nitrate that night in the bar
Oh, Christ.
upstairs. He was passing around a little bottle.
Oh, yeah. Uh, uh, uh,
um,
well, I was driving, so I couldn't do it.
No,
That was a
no,
mistake.
that's right. And then
Because they had the drummer from Camel with them that night.
did
It-
they?
yeah, yeah, Andy Ward, and he was I'd seen Camel in the
Right.
top rank, 75, I think, yeah,
Because
75.
they were getting rid. The original drummer was
Oh
not
yeah,
up to much, was he? And
he's my standard.
so I think what they did is they were recording. They were or recording or they were rehearsing in like a studio up in the back mountains or something. I think
All
is
right.
what I remember it as. So they played in Penyrheol, and the next day or from there they got in a van and drove to Glastonbury. That was their next venue, the next gig
I
at the
think
festival.
the night we saw them Penyrheol, they were late coming on because they'd been doing Top of the Pops. I
Oh
think it was
right. Oh blimey.
Kaylee. I don't know if it was Kaylee or something like
Right.
that.
Okay. Yeah, it may have
And
been.
but they came down. They were late because everybody thought it was getting so late they wouldn't do the gig. But you know, and they did a full show. But I saw them 3 weeks later in Crystal Palace at the Peter Gabriel gig. I stopped to talk to them. I said, "Oh, I saw you boys
Oh, I was going to say they didn't
in
play at the
Penarel
Peter
three
Gabriel.
weeks ago."
They went to see the Peter
Yeah, they were
Gabriel gig, didn't
standing
they?
on one of the terraces.
Yeah,
And
he was. They were. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts were at the time with that, but I mean, they were a ridiculous Genesis rip off. It would have been then. There were no tribute acts, but his singing, well, and everything they did was. Grendel might have been their supper's ready, I think, then,
yeah,
wasn't it? I mean,
yeah,
so
yeah.
they were along those lines. And so there is that fish, Fish. You might have
The
picked
other
up
fish.
only in I've been recently literally just following on. I saw some stuff on Twitter over the New Year's talking about Fish Phish, the American Fish jam band as they are, and I've been getting off on them for the last few months and thrilled by the fact there's about 15 studio albums and about 45 live albums for me to delve
Yeah.
into. But I'm not sure I got the endurance for that. But they seem to attract a similar. I'm sure you would have. Where are you on Zappa then? Because you've got you like you're cataloging as well. You know the gigs you went to, where you went to them, when they were. My God, you know where what you ate and how you got there and whatever else. What about Zappa tends to attract also that kind of completist collector type
I like
personality and
I like a lot of his stuff, but I'd never seen him live, but I have met him. I went to see Rod Argent was playing in the venue in Victoria in '79,
right.
and brilliant. When you go to a gig and I wasn't expecting it to be so good because it was Rod Argent on keyboards. He had Peter Robinson from Brand X, Robin Lumley from Brand X. There were three keyboard players. Chester
Wow.
Thompson on drums,
Oh
Alfonso Johnson on bass.
no.
Yeah, yeah. Who was the percussionist? Maurice Pert on percussion and John Goodsall on guitar. And it just blew my mind away how good it was.
Was that an instrumental band or did they have vocals
No,
as
no.
well?
Colin Blunstone singing.
Colin Blunstone singing as well.
Yeah.
It was Argent then, was it? Or
Well, it was Rod Argent, but no,
right,
it was his first sort. Well, it's
right.
called Moving Home, the album. And Colin's drums in it. That's why I got into it. And
Oh
but as I was walking out, Zappa was walking in. And I guess he got a big like smoking jacket down to the floor,
no.
cravat, and I said, "Hey, Frank, hey man," and some of the crew that were working there the Genesis crew were working there because they all, Rod Argent was on Hit and Run, that was Genesis's management.
Right.
Mike Kidson, the one who I had put Phil Collins' drum kit together in '81. I was in touch with him not so long back, and I said about Frank. He said, "Oh, I got photos somewhere, and I'd love to have a copy of the photo just
Yes.
because
That's
I
the
can't
one thing we
remember if
never
it's
had
red or
as well,
blue."
you know, as I said, but in some respects there's something I don't know, something more special about the fact that you've got the memory
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a photograph would perhaps be nice, everything's photographed nowadays, isn't it? Nothing passes by without getting a snap of it. So,
I went
but
through a
but
I went through a phase of bootlegging every gig I went to, and I
yeah,
did
that was
Genesis.
that was a bit of a waste of time, though, wasn't it? Surely, was the recording equipment up to muster, or did you just come
No,
away with very poorly recorded
well, they were like
C90s?
a B or a C they were on the bootleg scale. But I got a cracking fight in taped in New York when I went to see Genesis. These American guys arguing next to me. Doof, doof.
Were they arguing about you recording the gig, or
Oh
just,
no, they're
just
just
something else?
arguing over beer or tip beer or something. It's like a row over from us.
Right.
But
So what
oh
about,
God.
what's the most recent gig you've been to then? We've talked about lots of gigs from the past. Or what about the most recent ones? I might even ask, what have you got tickets coming up? I'm going to see the Eagles this weekend, actually.
Yeah, but
So
yeah, unfortunately, Steely Dan had to pull out, didn't they?
Steely Dan
So
have pulled out. Doobie Brothers have gone in, but I'm a little bit dubious about this venue. It sounds as if it's all falling apart. This new co-op
oh,
venue
the
in
co-op one.
Manchester.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm going to a gig now. I don't know whether you'd be the same, but I mean, it's myself and the wife are going. It's staying over in a reasonably nice hotel. You know what I mean? Ticket prices, I think, are about £150 each. So it's 300, maybe 400 for the night. You know, it's an £850.
Well, at least it's cheaper than America because the prices Demery pays are unbelievable for tickets.
Really?
It is absolutely bonkers. Yeah, you're talking $600 to see the Who. I don't
Because
know.
they have gone I don't know if you've seen is it the Sphere that they call it in Las
Oh yeah,
Vegas,
in Las
that
Vegas,
new
you
place
two
there.
started.
So
Yeah.
Fish just played there, and I think also again the Grateful, whatever it is, whatever the new version of the Grateful Dead is, they just played. And again, the pricing is also a tiered pricing right throughout the venue, but secondary market just takes things stratospheric because there are people, and listen, there would be occasions as well. Listen, if somebody at some point in my life, do you know what I mean? If somebody said Deep Purple Mark II are playing again, in the Albert Hall for group and orchestra.
Yeah.
Are they also no? John Lord's not around, but other than that, they're with you might go. Oh damn! How much? They got 1,000. What? 15? I don't know. We're currently, because Chris Tanner would love to see Pink Floyd. Sorry, not Pink Floyd. Dave Gilmour. Dave Gilmour at the Albert
Oh yeah.
Hall coming up soon. But
Yeah.
he went online and the tickets. I think he's been offered tickets at something like £600 plus
Oh,
VAT. So that's a £700 ticket. I've seen. I can't get. It's good, enjoyable evening. Yes, very nice. But it's not. The hairs on the back of my neck aren't standing up at the prospect of going to see him. But I think for Chris, it is. He'd love to
yeah.
love to see him again. But the
Mm.
prices are just, and not even the prices. You can't even get them.
No.
Can't even get
Yeah.
them.
Well, I know they've just announced in America there's an inquiry into is it Ticketmaster
Ticketmaster, I believe
and
so.
Live
Just
Nation. They one
right.
company and it's a monopoly, so they
Yes.
hopefully they'll break them up. But it's crazy because, well, I don't. I remember 75 queuing overnight outside Virgin Records for Led Zeppelin tickets in February. And then
But
the only
but the beauty is, but it's noticed though. It's the same kind of fan dynamic. You would have slept in the snow. Listen, they had record store day. They probably would have had it in Swansea again recently.
yeah,
But I live in Letchworth in Hertfordshire. A few months ago, I think we were going to, I said to my wife, and I popped into the record shop. It's like 6 o'clock of the evening. There's two guys standing outside. This is a Friday night. And I said, are they here for record store day? Yeah. They'd already started queuing at 6 p.m.
mm,
ready for whatever time we opened up, 8 o'clock the following morning. My wife couldn't believe it, so much so that the following morning she went and drove past with my daughter. They went to go and see, are they actually there? And there's a huge queue. So what you're doing, it's the same with football. The fan can be milked
oh yeah,
very easily, too easily in some respects. And I'm sure Taylor Swift is doing it big, is probably finessing the technique of bilking an audience, because a very large audience too. But I believe they're a large audience, but the ticket prices are through the roof.
yeah. Or at least she looks after her crew because didn't she give them like $50,000 bonus each, even to the truckers?
I thought it was more than that. I might be
Well,
wrong, but I
it
thought it
probably
was
will be, but yeah, at least 50 grand to everybody.
yeah, yeah.
So there's not many people that would do that.
No, I would say no. It's a fair point on that. It's not bad. We
I was
went to
going to.
see the Roger Waters gig at the Palladium were great. There was about £145, and that we were 4 rows back, smack bang centre, brilliant. I'm going to see. I saw Mike Stern at John Roddy Scott's recently. That I think it was about £60 a ticket. There are still gigs at 60 quid, but I said this, I don't know how what the inflation statistic would be, but the fact that we could have seen, say, you could have seen Genesis, yes, Led Zeppelin, any of those big names from the 1970s at the time, probably for an average price of a fiver.
Yeah.
And taking inflation into account, but what was a fiver then? What would it be now? And I would have
But
said it's probably 50, £60, but the
yeah, but not
prices
no
are,
more than that. Yeah, it's.
yeah.
Does your wife like music?
Yeah, but not necessarily
What do you like?
my type. So we went to see Steely Dan together. She likes Steely Dan, the Eagles. We've been to see Paul McCartney together, but she don't come to see the jazz stuff or the fusion stuff or the rock stuff. She'll come and see some Little Feat. We went to see them. Have you ever seen them?
Right on the vetch. Lowell George is with them then, so
Right. Well, he wasn't when
uh,
I saw them,
oh well,
unfortunately.
no, yeah,
But
yeah,
a bit
yeah.
later. But still, it was a great gig. No, we've seen
I,
probably plenty over the years. But I know which gigs you like and which you want. I've got two daughters, but I've got one daughter in particular who's got a very good music taste. We went to seen a few gigs with her. Went to see Kate Bush a few years back when that little stint that she did at Hammersmith
and that
Odeon.
Omaha Keen on drums.
Was it?
Yeah,
We had tickets for that. She came to
about
that. We
20,
also went to see 2018, was it, or
14.
2016?
I think it might have been even
Yeah,
20.
something like that. Something like
Yeah,
that. She
10
did
years ago.
about
Yeah,
whatever it was. It's the only time she's been there in
I
about
saw
30
in
years.
Hammersmith Odeon the first time round in '78.
Of course you did. Of
Yeah.
course you did.
I'm not really a fan, but as I say, I'd go and see anybody live, and she was great.
I
It was a
bet that
tiny
was,
band with her.
yes, that was
Yeah, yeah,
pretty astounding. I mean, I've seen documentaries of what she was doing back.
yeah.
So it
They
was
filmed that.
also
Yeah,
quite revolutionary in terms of what she was doing on stage.
stage. Yeah,
Radio mics were
Mike's.
new at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went with my daughter, we went to see Radiohead
All right.
at the O2, about, I don't know, 12 years ago, something along those lines. We've been seeing Muse. She likes Muse. I quite like Muse too.
Yeah.
And then my other daughter, we hadn't really been to see any gigs at all. She came to Mike Stern last week. She enjoyed herself.
All
My
right.
son, my son, I've been to see. We saw Budgie in Letchworth
Oh
maybe
Lord.
20 odd years ago. Yeah, and then
How old is your son?
he is now 91. He was at 33. He's now going to be, I think,
Oh, same
33
age
years
as
old.
my daughter is. She'll be 33 next month. Yeah,
Right, my
yeah.
boy, he's out in the US, so he's
Oh, all
out
right.
there. I
What's
don't.
he doing?
He went out to university out there. He was good at basketball. That was the connection I made
Oh,
the other
yeah.
night. I said about that.
Slam dunk.
He played a lot of basketball, and so he went out on he had a full scholarship out to the US, and he met his girlfriend. And he's married, and they were family. I got a fourth grandchild coming out there shortly. But we went to see with him. I think we saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think that's 20 years ago. I think I'm the same age as Flea, I think, and I think Flea was 40 that night. So that was
Well,
20 years ago. But I remember buying Blood Sugar Sex Magic. That would have been about 91. So the Chili Peppers have been going a long, long time. Have you seen them?
no, I haven't.
Right.
I haven't heard much of him. I think my son likes some of it, but my son he'll be 31 now in August, but he's a guitarist, and that's what he had for his 11th birthday, a guitar a little PV guitar, and he had lessons, and he still plays. In fact, he's got a full day in the studio tomorrow, every Wednesday. Him and his band rehearse, but he's more pop punk. But
Right.
yeah, it's
Let's so with say that he's playing in a band, a Welsh band. Let's bring it. We've talked a little bit about we've talked quite a lot actually about man, but maybe bringing things to a conclusion here as well. And what about Manic Street Preachers on that front? Your boy or for yourself?
I did see them in Singleton Park in about when Richie Edwards was with them, of course. So a long time ago, they got bottled off the stage practically. You know, the Heineken festivals. He's got
Right.
set.
I've been to a couple of those. I went to see Status Quo there a few years ago. Did you? Did you go to? You didn't. Well, I
Oh,
went to that because I only went to that because I'd never wanted to see Status Quo. I'd never wanted to see them, but went because Deke Leonard was playing
right.
on that bill, and that was. I think it might have been Will Hewitt or whatever on bass. I don't think it was Martin Ace. I can't remember. And Brian Breeze on guitar with him as well, though. Brian
Oh,
Breeze as well.
that's Iceberg then. Yeah,
It was Iceberg, and they were good. It was good.
yeah. I've seen
But
them loads of times.
but Quo were fantastic,
Yeah,
and
I
I
saw
really not expected it. I just thought, nah, but they were brilliant.
I saw them in the Avon Lido in '74, I think it was. And then I saw them in Nebworth. I'm sure that, yeah, I think it's supporting Queen on Queen's last ever gig with Freddie Mercury
Oh well,
in '86.
right.
And yeah, I enjoyed them. You know, I think the original lineup, the two musicians that left, the drummer, is it Coughlin, and the bassist, they were replaced by better musicians. And
Well, younger,
yeah,
and I think
yeah,
that's it's typically the case. I think, and there's probably some good examples of it. If they can switch out the drummer, because an aging drummer things all of a sudden do. Listen, you know how it is. I don't know
yeah,
whatever you do, whether say if I try and play, it's hard to believe how your brain is telling your body to do something and the body doesn't react to it the same way. And that must have been the case even for the likes of Neil Peart.
oh yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
struggle and the strain that it must have been. It's a lot easier for some people. John Anderson singing vocals on again on one of those videos the other night just looked effortless, and a man of his age, and yet at the same time, no offense meant, but if you've seen Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull, I mean his voice is
yeah.
ruined, destroyed. Can't whether it was the huffing and puffing on the flute that did it, I don't know, but his singing is well out of whack. But some of these singers, I think Colin Blunstone has managed
I
to
I saw the
retain.
yeah, I saw the Zombies in Pontardawe last year, and they were great. And I I went on to Rod Argent. I said, "Oh, I'll never forget your gig where I met Frank Zappa." He didn't even know Frank Zappa turned up that night.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, I think Rod Argent's from St Albans, not far from here. I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's where he's from. And of course, in Denmark
Because
Street,
yeah, Richard Cottle, you know Richard Cottle.
I do. Well, I only know of him.
Yeah,
I might have stood by when he came in the shop. And Lawrence Cottle plays a lot in Ronnie Scott's.
yeah,
But
yeah,
what's the
yeah,
Richard Cottle? Did he work at Rod Argent's then? Did
yeah.
he?
He worked at Rod Argent's shop in
Keyboard
Denmark
store
Street.
in
Yeah,
Denmark Street.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if you've been to Denmark Street recently, but it ain't the Denmark
no,
Street of old. It's quite surprising. But then saying that, I've got equipment, musical instruments here, and none of it has been bought in London, and a fair amount of it. But it never. I never understood it at the time. Working in a shop, even in the 80s, I couldn't believe that people would buy a guitar mail order, whereas
yeah,
I would always want to play the guitar that I'm going to buy.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
then bought mail order, and I myself have bought over the years numerous guitars online. So the business has changed, as all businesses perhaps do.
Band I used to work for from Swansea were called Seatown, and they recorded in Southern Music in Denmark Street. I just did a demo for something, but they also the following year, '82, we spent it was only a whole day in Utopia Studios in St John's Wood. I only found out about 2 years ago that 2 months after we were there, Sting wrote "Every Breath You Take" in the same room.
Oh, in the same studio. Well,
Yeah,
and it's things like that. I get the shivers over. You can see I've got an Abbey Road T-shirt on tonight. I
yeah,
bought it a few years ago. 2XL. It was not 2XL. I wasn't able to get into it. I feel I can get
uh,
into it now. still, I shouldn't really do that. It doesn't look particularly good.
So I
But
was worried about my man boobs, and
that's
I'm
right.
glad he brought them.
You managed to cut yours out there. But
Yeah,
I don't know if you've been. I've had a couple
I
of
got a flying
occasions when
t-shirt
I've.
on, by the way.
It looks good. Looks good. I
Uh,
had seen it.
uh,
I've had a couple of occasions when I've had the opportunity to go out to Abbey Road, which is wonderful,
yeah,
and that is kind of hair stand up on the back of your neck. But I found out again recently. I go to Covent Garden a lot, and if I go to Covent Garden, I go to Holborn Station. Come out of Holborn Station, across the road from Holborn Station. There's the Sainsbury's Express or whatever they call it. But that was once Delane Lee Studios. Delane Lee Studios is like a
yeah.
legendary
Well, Wishbone Ash
studio
recorded
in
that. Yeah,
they all recorded there. I think it was owned by Ian Gillan at one point. But even prior to that, Hendrix record. I think the Purple Haze. I think were recorded there. I can get. They say not tearful, but I want to touch the walls of these places. Another one, I went to the Hard Rock Cafe in London. It's changed now. I went again about 3 years ago because my first experience there was so extraordinary. 3 years ago, it wasn't quite the same. 10 years before that, went to the Hard Rock for burger and chips for lunch or whatever. And then this is the one on Piccadilly, and across from the restaurant, there is a Hard Rock store, and in the basement, in what was an old bank vault, they've got a load of the equipment. You know what I mean? The artifacts and whatever. And on that occasion, they only let about 5 or 6 people in at a time, with a guide. He'll come in with you. But the last time we went in, it was all guitar behind glass and whatever else. But the first time I went in, it wasn't. They were literally it was a Hendrix Flying V on a stand. You know what I mean? You could touch it, touch the strings on the fretboard. Kurt Cobain sunglasses. You know what I mean? A little the stuff, kind of Miles Davis trumpet, the kind of things that you'll
yeah.
see in Hard Rock cafes, but always behind toughened glass.
Yeah.
But these were there. You could literally, because the guy was there with you could literally pick them up. It was really very, very special. I said things like that. I get, I definitely get the chills over. And just going to Abbey Road, just standing outside there. I mean, I seriously for many years contemplated. I was going to basically go on eBay, see if I could get like one of these kind of Just Eat bibs or whatever, and just pretend to be delivering pizza there at one point. Maybe I could get in through the gate that way. As it is, if you go on the if you register with them and go on the newsletter, you'll find out maybe every couple of years an opportunity comes up where you can actually pay. This on the 2 occasions, the first one was the better, but you could go in. They were letting you in batches of about 20 every 10 minutes, but there was no, you got to go in, you got to be out in an hour. You could stay there all day if you wanted to. And that was, they opened up studios 1, 2, and 3. Second occasion I went, they only opened up studio 2, and it was for a lecture, but still chills. But
Sam has worked there a couple of times.
it's center of the universe in some respects. Although the one I don't think it exists anymore, but the one I would love to have gone to would have been Electric Ladyland in New York. That would have been the one. But my first exposure to a recording studio was Sycamore Sound in Treborth. I don't know if you ever remember Sycamore Sound in
Peter King, is it?
Peter King in Treborth, and Swansea Sound Studios as well was another one that I went to.
I don't know if there's used to be a recording studio in Mansell Street. I don't even know. I can't remember. It was called, and the band I worked with had a RSD 16 at the 2 mixing desk I used to use, but he'd leave it in the studio when we weren't using it. And the bloke called Steve Evans from Gossainen.
Yes.
It was Steve's studio.
I think I recorded a demo there once. I'm sure I did. I say Mansell. Well, Mansell Street is it one of the roads between where John Hams was?
It's John Hams, just further down than John Hams.
No, we did a recording there.
If it was between 81 and 83, you probably was in the mixing desk I used to use.
It was between 81 and 83, and
it
there we are.
Yeah.
as I said, listen, our worlds have got increasingly small. Is there anything before we kind of finish? Is there anything you want to kind of divulge here that you've thought about in
The
advance?
the one thing, the record that really started me on my real musical journey is this.
Ah, all right. Is it Lucky Man, though? Is it?
Yeah,
Right,
I was with Richard. We were the scouts. We went out to Europe in '71 on holiday, and a couple of the older boys said, "Oh, we bought this single, and we were staying in youth accommodation, and they had a little record player. That's the only record we had. It was played like 12 times on the
right,
trot.
right,
Of
right.
course, I went out and bought it myself. I never looked back after that. That was
Yeah.
my proper introduction to music.
Yeah, interesting. I heard it the other day somewhere. I can't remember online. I don't remember it that I don't know it that well
Yeah,
because it's a big vocal track, really, isn't it? I mean, more than it's a single. It's a
yeah,
single, but was it? It might have been on the first album then, was it? Which I don't know. What was the first album? Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
assuming it was.
I saw Greg Lake in the Grand Theatre, and I also saw him up in Aberystwyth University, and Gary Moore was playing guitar with him. Uh, oh, I saw Gary Moore down in Mumbles in Nuts. He was in a band called Colosseum 2.
Oh,
Probably one of the best gigs I've ever seen in
I
Swansea.
would have thought so. I mean,
Don Airy on
for
Don
Don
Airy on
Airey on
keyboards.
keyboards again.
Yeah. I think it was John
How
Moore on
big is the
bass.
venue? That venue, two, three
Two,
hundred people?
200 at the most, I would say.
It's a
And
nightclub.
yeah, and John Heisman, who was a phenomenal, he's dead now, poor bugger, but phenomenal drummer. They were amazing. Have you ever heard any of this stuff, Colosseum 2?
In passing, I know of them, and I said
Yeah,
all of the people you've talked about there. Gary Moore. I think it's like One Night in Dublin or something. I don't know if you've seen that live.
yeah,
It's a tribute really to Thin
yeah,
Lizzy. I think got to fill
yeah,
in that.
yeah,
But he's an extraordinary guitarist. Again, with feel, he's up there with
yeah.
with Blackmore in
Well,
my
I think,
opinion. And
you
Don
know,
Airey, as I said, I think is a great keyboard player. Good God, that man's had a career, hasn't he?
yeah,
Unbelievable what he's
yeah,
done. But to think that they were playing in
yeah.
nuts,
In Nuts and Mumbles, it is nuts. I
extraordinary.
I saw quite a few bands down there. The Enid, um, Motorhead.
I was due to see Motorhead when they were supporting Black Sabbath at Hyde Park, and I turned up and I came out of Marble Arch Tube Station. I was just about to actually, Motorhead were just about to be coming on, as far as I could tell from the timings. And then a friend of mine rang me up. He's like, his son was tripping on mushrooms in Amsterdam and was freaking out. What do I do? What do I do? And I was unfortunately the first person he called. I had to spend about 45 minutes trying to give him instruction on. His wife was then telling the son what to do. And I never got to see Motorhead as a
Oh
consequence,
God,
the
yeah.
bastards.
Probably the
But there we
loudest.
are. But I think I'll check out the Colosseum too, in that
Yeah,
respects,
well, well
on
worth
that
it.
one.
Yeah.
But I
They only
said
did 3 albums. Yeah,
the Emerson, Lake and Palmer, hugely influential to me. I could not have been more than 10 years of age. I think my brother borrowed Brain Salad Surgery, and that is the album for me. I think for my guess is for many Emerson, Lake and Palmer fans, I would. Does it get any better than Brain Salad Surgery? I'm not sure. Tarkus, I know as well, but I don't know
well,
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
the
my
earlier album.
musical things I picked up on came from Alan Freeman, the Saturday Rock Show,
Yeah.
and he always used Emerson, Lake and Palmer as the jingles, and I used to love every Saturday. I just sit down wherever I was, little transistor radio, even if I was watching rugby
Well, do you
on
remember?
this.
Do you remember Tommy Vance Rock Show then? So
Yeah,
the lodge that
yeah,
I'm a member of out in Luton, when we open the lodge, we open it to theme one of Underground, which is the
yeah,
da
no,
da
yeah,
da 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 da
yeah,
da
yeah,
da,
yeah.
which is brilliant prog
And
rock
then
in my opinion.
Tommy Vance's "Take It Off the Top" by Dixie Dregs.
It was. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's
And
right.
the reason I know that is I spent 4 nights in Paris with Genesis in '78, and I was lucky I got backstage and everything, and I was talking to the the front of house engineer, Craig Shirts, and he also always used to play this track or the album before the band. I said, "What's this?" He wrote it down for me, Dixie Dregs, and Take It Off the Top was the one that really stood out for
Yeah,
me.
I mean,
Next
my
minute,
guess is he would have been a very young man when Dixie Dregs were going. He's a very long career, so very impressive. Ronnie, last shot on this here then. My brother had watched a few of my younger brother had watched some of the podcasts, and he said, "Oh, cut out the." What do you want played at your funeral? But I quite fucking like it, to be honest. I mean, I just think, listen, we're at the stage. Are you okay? Well, my brother's like, oh no, it's all depressing.
No, I got 2 songs.
Right. Well, let's just set the stage on it. Yeah, as I said, that's all I'm asking is, as I said, we're musical people. As I said, clearly, you cut you and music comes out in many respects. It's this. I don't know whether you've got another interest which exceeds your interest in music. I'd be surprised if there's enough time within your life to cram that in. So have you thought about when I go, what would I like already to hear? Which is
after my heart attack last year, it nearly came into being.
Well, you look in very good health now.
Well, that's thanks to Morrison Hospital and the stent.
Stents are good.
It was going to be Supper's Ready, but that's 23 minutes long, so they won't put it. So it's going to be Afterglow from Wind and Wuthering.
All right.
And the other one is When the Cricketer Leaves the Crease by Roy Harper.
Oh, yeah. No, yes. So Afterglow, I probably know. If it's on Wind and Wuthering, I will know it, but I couldn't tell you. I couldn't. Is it instrumental or is it?
No, it's vocal one. And I don't know if you've ever seen. It's the one where if you saw them in 80, where the pink lights come from the back and they do
I'm not going to remember. I just remember In the Cage. I think that was about it, isn't it? But I'll know.
Yeah, it's the one where Chester Thompson and Phil Collins do the rip-off of the Frank Zappa More Trouble Every Day.
All right, okay.
Yeah. So
that would be.
I don't want the live version would go on too long, so you'll have to leave the one.
Well, I like listen. I mean, I don't think. I think you're being very thoughtful of deciding not going to go with. Supper's Ready, but I'm torn on this one because I said I've been to funerals and there might be a piece of music. It all depends if it's a creme. You go into a creme now. It's like it's military precision. It's like there's one not coming out. 5 minutes. You lot are going in. They play a bit of. I know they're doing their best. They're playing a bit. I feel like we might have to. For myself, I feel tell my family you're gonna have to rent it for the entire day. You're gonna have to have the entire day, and then there's actually going to be if anyone's interested, if they show up 90 minutes before the funeral, the music will be starting. Then there's going to be a playlist
festival of
stuff. Absolutely, it's going to kind of go through. So Supper's Ready would not be out of the question there at all. At 22 minutes,
a double slot.
Definitely, or maybe I don't know, with the graveside, whatever it is you're going to do, and then what was the other one you mentioned?
Roy Harper with the old Cricketer Leaves the Crease.
I only heard that last year for the first time. I'm not even sure why, but that's a very popular funeral.
Have you heard the album
piece.
HQ?
I probably have played the album once. But there's brass. On it. You've got brass band on that as well, though, isn't there?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
On that track, actually, isn't it? It might be one of the. I don't know. Is it the colliery bands or whatever? That's right. Oh, that's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, because the first track, the game, it's like a whole side long, and Gilmore's on it, Bill Bruford's on it, and it's so tight, it's unbelievable. Yeah. I really, really like that album.
But the cricketer, because I think it's probably with cricketers as well, actually, isn't it? Like that might be the main reason for it. But as I said, from your perspective, you're not a cricket player, a rugby player, from what you said.
I played football, rugby, and cricket.
All right, so you got
badly as my drumming.
Right, so you were a full-on sporty youngster in South Wales, but the combination of that, I mean, I can see why there it brings all of it together. It's very. melancholic again, isn't it? Because it is about, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah,
What's it called again? The title is.
the old cricketer when the old cricketer leaves the crease.
So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
exactly about
yeah,
the theme that we are that
yeah,
we're kind of exploring here. But to add to it, as I said, the Roy Harper connect, because Roy Harper, in some respects, may have been a bit of a kind of stargate to many of those. He was in the midst of, because isn't
Floyd with
Jimmy
have a
Page
cigar.
wasn't Jimmy Page and he
Yeah,
was he sorry, what was it, what's his connection with Floyd?
have a cigar. He's singing on that.
Right. So he's right
Here
in
we
the
are.
thick of it.
Yeah, yeah,
And on top of it, the is it the Brighouse and whatever it is,
yeah, yeah.
Colliery
Or
Brass
grime. Is
Band,
it the grime thought? I can't remember. It's one of
right?
those.
Whatever it is.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then
yeah,
going back all the way effectively, I mean, that would, I tell you what, Ronnie, that's possibly the most exquisite chef's kiss of
yeah.
of a parting a piece of music because we began this conversation
The
early on. You
brass.
talked about your I don't know whether they're going to dress you up in a little red with
Yeah,
with the
bare skin.
was
Well, my
absolutely
five
with
foot
the
five. At least they'll fill the coffin.
absolutely, absolutely. But with that, as I said, that piece of music would be is spot on. No, I hope as I hope you didn't mind me going. And my brother spooked me out on it recently. He's like, oh
Oh,
no, and it's
no, that's one of the probably the only two things that I wrote down that I definitely wanted to
yeah,
say.
no, we're of an age. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We've got to
Oh,
contemplate
definitely.
these things at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
don't we? I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
and I think the more important thing than anything for me then is sound quality. So I've not only got the lead, I've got to make sure it's going to be
yeah,
played
yeah,
properly. Because I think
yeah,
I've told the tale before. I knew an Australian guy that he did a very wonderful kind of spoken word piece, and his whole thing was people were going to be there in the church. 'Cause I think his was a burial. We just went to the church service, but his name, all of a sudden out of the speakers, he's talking to everybody there, and it was quite
yeah.
something. And then the CD player skips,
Oh,
you know. You get like he's got like a 5 minute spoken word piece, and the first 2 minutes are
yeah.
fine, and then it skips the last two,
Oh.
3 minutes, going about 14 seconds. So,
Well, I don't know about
yeah,
my cousin Roland. Earlier on was my gateway. His funeral, he played "Soon" by Yes from Relayer, from the Gates of Delirium. The last 5 minutes, I was in pieces. Absolutely wrecked me.
I
Yeah.
did it. But so is it a I don't know the piece, but was it just because of the setting that it affected you
Well,
that way, or
it's just our connection with music throughout our life. It's we've been to see Yes
yes,
about 5 times together.
yeah,
In fact, I got him and Anderson, Wakeman, Bruford, and Howe. Remember
yeah,
the
yeah,
when
yeah.
Yes did a bit of a split. Uh, it's a long story. The day he was diagnosed, my wife and I were going. We got engaged that day, and we were going um, to see Rick Wakeman in the Grand Theatre. And we were in the bar beforehand, and Rick Wakeman walks in. He said, "Oh, excuse me, what's that perfume you've got on?" I can't remember what it was now. He said, "Oh, well, I'll have to get my wife some of that." And I said, "Look," I said, "a bit upset at the moment because my cousin is just been diagnosed. He's not at all well. And we coming up to see you in Birmingham." And I said, "Look, is there any chance of getting him backstage to meet you?" And
Oh,
yeah, no problem. So we went up on the day, and Roland he'd had two operations, and he got as far as Ross and Y, and they were saying, "Go home, go home." And he was determined to go. So he got there, and I remember coming in, and Rick Wakeman is there, and uh, John Anderson's behind him eating
oh,
a banana, and Tony Levin was there. He was the bass player, and
well.
oh, it was wonderful to him. I got to be honest, he was really, really nice.
Yeah, that's very touching, isn't it? Oddly enough, as I said, I've mentioned Freemasonry a couple of times. Yeah, clearly you're not
No, no,
involved in that in any way. But Rick Wakeman is a Freemason, and if you've seen any of his interviews online, the reason he was a Freemason is I think he's from the Isle of Wight, and his father had passed away, and he went back for his father's funeral, and to find out that, literally from the time he got there, the local lodge that his father was a member of had pretty much, taken all the weight off the shoulders of the family, organizing everything. And it was a consequence, as I said, of the way that his father had been and his family had been treated at that time, at that moment, of the man's death. That was what had first appealed to him and attracted to him. He thought, if they can do something like this, I mean, I know they knew the man, but he was kind of seemingly unaware of it. But I said, that's wonderful what he did there. I went to see him last year at the Palladium again. He's doing a similar show now. It's in two halves. The first half was brilliant that I went to see. It was a evening of Yes. It was half a set of great Yes stuff, and then it Journey in the Centre of the Earth or something, which I think is Gary Pickford Hopkins, actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it didn't. But it's although it's Rick Wakeman, is clearly the music by Yes is not just written by Rick Wakeman, because it didn't quite do it for me. So, but I think I'd go and see him again. He tours all the time.
I've seen him in Penyrheol twice. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, look, we could go on all night, but I'm not going to go on all night.
No.
I'm not going to go on all night. But it's been fantastic, Ronnie. Colin. I prefer Ronnie. I'd really, and it just feels natural. It's been great. It's interesting to know we've been in the same room at least half a dozen times, I think, haven't we, over the years, whether it's in Penyrheol Leisure Centre, seeing Marillion, or in some Morriston, is it dingy club?
The Dufferin Club, I forget what it's called.
It was been there. Genesis Sapphire Gardens.
Best thing that happened to that place was the snow bringing the place down the week of the snowfall.
Down, didn't it? Right. Okay. Yeah. And what we'll do, listen, I'll make sure. Where are you living now?
Neath.
In Neath. I'll make sure next time I'm down, we'll catch up for a beer.
There's
undoubtedly a Weatherspoons nearby. There's numerous ones in Neath. No, it'll be the Mardy. If I'm asking you to come to Gorsainen, we'll do the Mardy. But let's make a date of that. Then we continue the conversation.
Let me know when you're coming down, and we can have a catch up face to face. Yeah. Brilliant.
All right. Well, look. Until then, all the very best. Have you enjoyed?
And I wasn't as nervous as I thought I'd be.
Well, I didn't see a spot of nerves at all, to be honest. It's the performer in you, the drummer in you, eventually having an opportunity maybe to perform. But it's been great, Ronnie. Thanks ever so much.
Brilliant.
Cheers, buddy.
All the best. Thanks, Mark. Ta-ra, bud. Ta-ra.